All right, welcome back to Sunday Report. As President Trump makes America first trade deals, one major nation cannot seem to come to terms with our neighbors to the north. It's Canada. The two sides continue to be at odds here. And now that Canada's committed to backing the statehood of Palestine, well, President Trump took to Truth Social. He says this. He says, wow, Canada just announced that it is backing statehood for Palestine. That will make it very hard for us to make a trade deal with them, oh Canada. So that was President Trump there on Truth Social. Let's talk a little bit more about this. Let's bring in the president of Strellmark LLC, Hillary Forwich. Great to have you here. Also the host of the Charbonne Report, Michael Charbonne. Great to have you here. Hillary, I want to start with you because this is important. I mean, Canada has been one of the biggest trade partners with the United States for decades, longer than that. But now they're at a position where they're going to have to make a deal here. And is that deal going to get even harder now, given what Canada has said about the state of Palestine?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And pleasure to be back with you again, John. They've made it frightfully difficult because, of course, they know this goes diametrically opposed to President Trump's policies and indeed the policies of the United States. The problem we have here is Mark Carney. Of course, he ran on elbows up. What does that mean? That's a very defiant hockey term. Canadians ran on, but he ran on this. So here we go, John. We have, President Trump ran on America first, and that's what Carney ran on. So he just cannot undermine his entire base. That's number one. Number two, 1.7 million Canadians work in the manufacturing sector, and this is 1/10 of their GDP. So they really need the jobs. So he's got himself in a really tight corner here. 2/3 of the Canadians, according to a recent YouGov poll, said they want to take a defiant stance. What does it mean? It means Mark Carney has a very tough position. It's a very tough position. And I understand that his calls to the White House now are going unanswered. So I would not want to be in his shoes. And last but not least, just remember, this fantastic EU deal, which even Bloomberg has said is one of the greatest deals in our lifetimes, that EU deal makes it more tough for Canada. Why? Because the US, we didn't need Canada as much before as they needed us. Now we need them even less.
And to your point, Hillary, because I was just up in Canada last week, and one thing that struck me, Michael, was the amount of patriotism that that country has taken on. You see Canadian flags on homes, you see them in the businesses now. It says, made in Canada. They're really embracing nationalism. I think President Trump has created that. Do you agree?
Absolutely. There has been a reigniting of Canadian patriotism. I think in some instances, Canadians always look to America with so many flags. Look at what Donald Trump has done with 2 flags in the White House, front and back. Canadians were always kind of laid back. And I think now, because of these trade problems, there has been a renewed patriotism. But with these new 50% tariffs on aluminum, copper, and steel, it's going to affect both sides of the border. Let's understand that what happened in 2018 with CUSMA, which was negotiated by Donald Trump, talked about an integrated North American economy. I mean, 50% of the elements that Canada produces goes to the United States. And think about that aluminum, copper, and silver, which is all these raw products that are absolutely essential to the boom that President Trump has negotiated with all of these new plants.
Yeah.
Is not going to be there because there's going to be a difficult situation in getting them across. U.S. Census said that in May of this year, 60% of Canadian goods that entered the United States were duty-free. Other products that we give to the United States, pork, beef, wheat, all of them are raw products. It's going to affect both of us. We have to do a trade agreement that's going to allow us to have the largest free trading area in the world, and we will be so powerful, the two of us together.
Hillary, do you think that the tariff will come down somewhere around 15%? That seems to be kind of the sweet spot for a lot of these countries. Right now it's at 35%. Do you think Trump will bring that down?
Well, one would hope so in terms of there actually being a deal done. But I will say this, John, don't forget, Canada, actually, and China, Canada's been defiant. The EU wasn't defiant. And President Trump has been more likely to make deals. Look at the great deal with the United Kingdom. That was a great deal because the UK was not defiant. And I think all Mark Carney's doing is making it tougher for an actual deal to ever take place. But something that Michael just touched upon, we would be far stronger in terms, especially oil. That's a good example where together we literally could be self-sufficient and not need any other oil in the world. So it is mutually beneficial to get a deal done. Yes, I do think you're right. It will come down to somewhat of a concession, and it will be somewhat lower, but both sides need to get it done.
Last thoughts here, Michael. You've got about 20 seconds. But do you think that Carney is now feeling the pressure to make this deal?
Yes, he is. The Canadian Business Council said there's no such thing as free trade anymore between Canada and the United States because there is a fee to enter America. Let's understand, we're both going to feel it. We're starting to feel the effects from China. Let's get a deal done. For goodness sakes, keep calling and make it happen. Carney's wasting time, and he's losing an opportunity, John.
All right, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Hillary, as well as Michael. Thank you so much for coming on Talking Canada.
Thanks, John. Bye, Mike.
All right, insight from